Hey everyone, welcome back to another Beast of the Mesozoic Tyrannosaur Series 2 review. Today we're taking a look at the Dryptosaurus. Now, since Creative Beast Studios is based out of New Jersey, I feel like the reason we have this species is because Dryptosaurus here is a native New Jersey dinosaur, which I think is pretty cool. So this figure is now available on Creative Beast Studios website. It retails for $89.99. I'll leave the link down below in the description if you want to order this feathered beauty for yourself. So let's go over the package really quick before we crack this figure open. Dryptosaurus has had a long history in paleontology. We'll go over that a little bit later, but you can see the Beast of Mesozoic logo front and center. Dryptosaurus, Tyrannosaur series. Nice picture of the Dryptosaurus on the front of the packaging. Spin it around, we get some nice product images of the Dryptosaurus, some facts about it, and the rest of the figures in Wave 2. So that will do it for the packaging. Let's crack this feathered beast open and take a closer look. And here is the Dryptosaurus of the packaging in all its half-feathered glory. Now, this is a very important dinosaur species. It was the first theropod dinosaur to be discovered in North America. It was actually described by Edward Drinker Cope back in 1866 under the name Lalops. Unfortunately, that name was occupied by a friggin' mite, and in typical Bone Wars fashion, off Neil Charles Marsh's head, it ran up Cope's butt one more time and renamed it Dryptosaurus. Now, it's actually from Appalachia, which is an East Coast island from the Cretaceous period that we know very little about. There's a few dinosaur species notable from it, Appalachiosaurus and Hadrosaurus. So it's very cool that we actually have a Dryptosaurus figure, and this figure is absolutely beautiful. I think it's one of the best painted figures so far in the Tyrannosaur series. Now, the color scheme is based off the Harris Hawk, and there's a lot of browns and blacks on here, but just the transition of the colors is just so subtle. It just makes the figure look just absolutely gorgeous. Nice natural looking color scheme. You have bright yellow for the front of the head and the feet. You have those very, very large two-fingered forearms on the Dryptosaurus, which is, they got it from its close relative, Tyrannus. Dryptosaurus is known from very fragmented remains. So a lot of this is based on reconstructions of other Tyrannosaurs, but all around an absolutely gorgeous looking figure. And now time for some measurements. This figure from the tip of the snout to the tip of the tail is 16 inches long, or 40.6 centimeters. And from the feet to the top of the head, about 6 inches tall, or 15.25 centimeters. So Dryptosaurus in real life was around 25 feet long, or 7.5 meters. So I'll put this figure nicely in the 1/18 scale range. And just like all figures in Beast of Mesozoic, you do get a trading card with that artwork that's featured on the packaging, with the Dryptosaurus just chilling out, getting pestered by some of its cousins. And on the back of the card, we have a picture of the actual figure and some information about Dryptosaurus. And now let's take a look at the accessories. First up, let's take a quick look at the base. This is the same base that's come with the Tyrannus, Bista Reversa, and Litronax. It's all the same mold, just painted slightly different. This one has more of a yellowish rock color. You got some grass, a root coming in, and some more grass and moss poking through on the rock cracks. Here's the peg for the feet to insert into. On the bottom, you do have this H-clip, which does come off to remove this rock right here for different posing options. Going to speed through this a little bit more because we've talked about this base quite a few times in these reviews. And then going to the feet, you do get a pair of non-articulate legs, which do help with posing the figures. You do have the peg hole on the bottom, which goes on the base, which keeps your figure nice and stable on the base. And then you do get a pair of articulated legs, which are really nicely done. We'll go over the articulation a little bit later on in the review. And you also do get a pair of closed toes, and you do get a pair of walking toe feet, and all those peg into the bottom of the articulated leg on that ball joint that's in here. And obviously you get the pair of splay toe feet, which comes installed on the figure already. And now let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this Dryptosaurus, starting with this absolutely beautiful head sculpt. Like I said earlier, I think this is one of the better painted figures so far in the Tyrannosaur series. Has a nice smooth transition of colors all over the figure. Has a nice sinister looking eye, painted red with a black pupil. You have some yellow and light browns and grays on the snout. The ornamentation on the head is all decked out in gray paint. Lower jaw has some of that yellow transition into like a darker orange coloration, some of that black coloration. Opening the mouth up, you have a nice bright pink inside of the mouth. You get the tongue right there, teeth are painted nice and white. Roof of the mouth is pink, and so is lower jaws. One of my biggest complaints with this series is, the mouths don't open up as wide as I like them to. I just feel like the details inside the mouth are just a little bit flat, but other than that, really not a big deal. And here is a view of this thing from the front. These Tyrannosaurs, I love the binocular vision, but they just have like this derpy expression from the front. And here's a view of the head from the top. You have all this nice feathering starting at the back of the head that goes all the way down the body. Now this figure sports a half feathered look. Now it is the same body type as Dryptosaurus and Bista, but David found a workaround instead of sculpting a completely new body. This is actually a sheath that goes over the body, and it's a pretty ingenious way to not cost more money in tooling a completely new body for the Dryptosaurus. I think it works out really, really well for it. Then going for the underside of the throat, you get some nice scales underneath the throat, a little bit of white, and all those brown colorations mixed in together. Going down to the forearms, you have very, very large two-fingered forearms on this figure, which really makes it stand out. Nice, sharp, menacing-looking claws decked out in glossy black paint. Inside the palms are painted in a yellow coloration. Going down to the body, you have all this nice feather coloration. It's mostly black with this light dry brush of brown. It gives it a nice natural look to it. And then turn the figure over, you have a little bit more of that sheath covering right here. You have a little bit of white feathering on the chest and more of that browns and light coloration for the underbelly. And then going down to the very powerful looking hind legs. Lots of nice scale detail, and then all that brown transitions to this nice yellow coloration for the feet. The toe claws are decked out in glossy black paint. You can see the scales on the feet are nicely done with nice dry brushing of brown. And then zooming back out, let's go down to the tail. You have more of the sheath glued on to the top of the body. Unfortunately, this part right here really hampers the upwards movement on the tail, but now it's a small compromise to get this half feathered look on this figure and go all the way down to the tip of the tail. So yeah, all around, really, really impressed with this figure. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I would. I was more anticipating other figures in Wave 2, like Dryptosaurus and Bista, but man, this one is quickly becoming one of my favorites. Now for articulation, the head can look up pretty far. That's some of the fine tuning that David did after the criticism with the larger T-Rex figures, that the head movement was pretty restricted. Now you still have that hoodie bouncing around that leaves some gaps, but hey, these articulated figures, it's going to happen. Mouth can open up that wide, close completely flush, and then this joint for the neck, you can get some upwards and downwards movement. When you get the upwards movement, you can really see where the sheath is on this figure. And then for the rest of the articulation on the neck, my camera does not like focusing on this feathery boy. You get some nice side to side movement using both those joints in tandem. And then going down to the arms, can just swing out just a little bit. You get some of the forward and backwards movement, about 90 degrees of bend on that elbow joint. Wrist can move inwards and outwards and rotate. Going down to the mid-body, you do have that mid-body cut for very little upward movement because this sheath actually bumps into that, but you do get a little bit of downward movement and some side to side. It's a lot tighter than the other figures that share this body mold because of these added feathers. Hind legs, you get backwards and forwards movement on them. I have the articulated legs, so you do get nice straight bend on that knee joint, and that's about much bend you get on going backwards. You get some forward bend on that ankle joint, and the feet can wiggle wobble and go up and down. On the other side, we have the non-articulated leg. All it does is have a knee joint. And then going down to the tail, like I said, you don't get any upwards movement because of this feathery coat. We do get some downwards movement and side to side. Same thing for the joint right here. And I just popped the bendable rubber part off on this figure. For some reason on this one, it pops off really, really easy on my Dryptosaurus. We do have a bendable wire in there to get some more poses of it. So all around, the articulation is pretty standard what you expect to come from beasts of the Mesozoic. All right, moving on with comparisons. First up here it is with the Hammond Collection Robert Muldoon. He's a 3 3/4 inch figure, so he is 1/18 scale, so he scales perfectly with this Dryptosaurus. And next up, let's put another New Jersey dinosaur in. Here it is with Collectes Hadrosaurus, another very important species of dinosaur. Can't believe we have so few figures of Hadrosaurus. So yeah, this Collectes Hadrosaurus works good as a juvenile figure if you want to display it with your Dryptosaurus. And next up, let's bring out Tyrannosaurus, which I'll be reviewing shortly. And let's do another Wave 2 figure. Here it is with Tyrannosaurus, and since it's still on the review table, here it is with the 1/18 scale Dromaeosaurus. And next up, here it is with another large feather boy in the Tyrannosaur series, the Wave 1 Tyrannus. Now, they do look pretty similar, but the only parts shared between them is the forearms. They both share the same forearms. Obviously, the hands are different sculpts. Even the hoodie on the neck is a completely different sculpt for the Dryptosaurus. So I really appreciate David putting the extra effort to make this Dryptosaurus look very unique from the rest of the line. And let's just do a couple ceratopsians, because why not? Here it is with Xenoceratops, and here it is with Avaceratops. And of course, we always have to finish these reviews off with the monster 1/18 scale Tyrannosaurus Rex. So final thoughts on Dryptosaurus. I'm really liking this figure. I knew I'd like it, but I'm like loving this thing. It's quickly becoming one of my top figures in the Tyrannosaur series. Still, Bista Reversa is my #1 figure from Wave 2, but this one is definitely a close second. And like I said earlier, it's a very important species of dinosaur, and I think this is really the only Dryptosaurus figure out there. So I can see a lot of people just adding it to their dinosaur collection, whether or not they collect Beasts of the Mesozoic figures. It has just a really nice natural paint job. I think it's one of the best painted figures so far in the Tyrannosaur series. Just I love everything about the half-feathered look, just the way the colors contrast with each other, those big forearms with the two clawed hands. All around, this figure is just great. Now, if you'd like to pick this figure up for yourself, I'll leave a link down below in the description to Creative Beast Studio. So that will do it for the review. I am trucking along with these BoTM reviews. All I got left to do is Tyrannosaurus and Proceratosaurus. Should have some new PNSO stuff coming in. And Jurassic World, and I think I have a Jurassic Park related transformer that is a third-party transformer that I will be reviewing on the channel at some point whenever it comes in from China. So stay tuned for all that. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on the channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously, and it's greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.